Good morning, everyone. Let me ask you a simple question. If someone followed you around and spoke to you the way you speak to yourself, would you tolerate them? For many of us, the answer is no. The words we tell ourselves in silence are often harsher, colder, and far more unforgiving than anything we'd ever accept from a friend or even an enemy. But here's the good news. You have 100% control over that internal voice. Today, I want to challenge you to a 21-day transformation. For the next 3 weeks, you're going to talk to yourself differently. And by the end of those 21 days, you'll realize you've been walking around with a best friend you never knew you had you. Let's dive into 6 key principles that will make this challenge life-changing. Imagine a 5-year-old wobbling on a tiny bicycle, their helmet slightly askew, eyes filled with determination and a dash of fear. They pedal hard, lose balance, and tumble onto the grass. Now, picture walking up to that child, standing over them and saying, "You're pathetic. You'll never get this right." The thought feels cruel, doesn't it? Almost absurd. Because deep down, we know that's not how growth works. We'd kneel beside them, offer a hand, smile warmly and say, "It's okay. Let's try again. You're getting better." That's how we nurture growth in others. Yet, when it comes to ourselves, we abandon that kindness. One mistake, and suddenly we become our own harshest critic, unleashing a torrent of self-judgment as if belittling ourselves will somehow make us improve faster. For the next 21 days, I challenge you to interrupt that cycle. Every time you slip up, whether you send an awkward text, miss a workout, or lose your temper, I want you to catch that inner critic and deliberately replace it with kindness. Not because you're trying to sugarcoat failure, but because you understand that growth needs a safe space to happen. It's not about ignoring mistakes. It's about choosing the tone of the conversation you have with yourself. You can be honest without being cruel. There's a misconception that being hard on yourself is a sign of strength, that relentless self-criticism is the fuel for high achievers. But strength doesn't come from self-inflicted wounds. Resilience, true resilience, is built on self-compassion. Think of elite athletes. After a bad game, their coaches don't scream insults into their ears. They analyze, adjust, and encourage. The athletes who rise are the ones who learn, not the ones who collapse under their own internal berating. Research from the University of Texas reveals a fascinating truth. People who practice self-compassion are significantly more likely to recover from setbacks. Why? Because they don't waste precious emotional energy waging a war against themselves. They fail, they reflect, and they move forward. Self-compassion isn't an excuse, it's a strategy. When you talk to yourself with kindness, you're conserving energy for the actual work of improving. Imagine your mind as a garden. Harsh self-talk is like pouring acid on the soil. Nothing good grows there. Kindness, however, is like sunlight and water. It creates conditions where learning and resilience can flourish. For 21 days, you're going to be the gardener who tends to their own growth with care. Every time you catch yourself saying, "I'm so bad at this," pause and reframe it. "I'm learning." When you think, "I always mess things up," switch it to, "This is a chance to grow." It's not about being naive or delusional. It's about choosing a perspective that propels you forward instead of paralyzing you. You may think this practice is soft, even indulgent. But consider this. Who do you think will endure longer in the face of challenges? The person who carries a constant weight of self-loathing, or the one who treats themselves as a worthy work in progress? The answer is clear. Harshness depletes, kindness replenishes. We often think of resilience as the ability to power through, to endure suffering without flinching. But resilience is not built by breaking yourself down. It's built by creating an internal environment where setbacks are temporary and mistakes are treated as lessons, not verdicts. Every time you respond to your own failures with kindness, you're wiring your brain to stay in the game longer. You're training yourself to see obstacles not as dead ends, but as detours. Think about the people you admire most, the ones who seem unshakable. Chances are, they didn't get there by hating themselves into success. They learned how to be their own ally, especially when things went wrong. They didn't drown in guilt or shame. They used self-compassion as a lever to lift themselves up. Let's be clear, kindness is not the absence of accountability. You can be kind and still hold yourself to high standards. The difference is in the approach. Criticism says, "You're not good enough." Kindness says, "You're capable of better, and I'm here to help you get there." Which message do you think will motivate you more? During these 21 days, pay attention to your self-talk patterns. Notice how quickly your mind jumps to judgment. It might feel automatic, but it's not unchangeable. With practice, you can rewire it. Every moment of failure becomes a chance to strengthen this new habit. And with every act of self-kindness, you're building emotional endurance. When we treat ourselves kindly, we create a psychological safety net. It's this safety that encourages us to take more risks, to try again after we fall. Imagine what would happen if every child learning to walk gave up after the first fall because the inner dialogue was too harsh. The human race wouldn't have made it far. Growth requires grace. Mistakes aren't evidence of inadequacy, they're evidence of effort. They mean you're in the arena trying. This shift won't happen overnight. Years of self-criticism don't dissolve in a day. But every small moment where you choose kindness over criticism is a stitch in the fabric of resilience you're weaving. You'll notice over time that failures sting less and recovery is faster. You'll start to see mistakes as data, not as personal flaws. You'll begin to trust yourself more, knowing you won't be met with a verbal lashing the next time you falter. The real power of talking to yourself with kindness is that it keeps you moving. Criticism often paralyzes. It locks you into cycles of self-doubt and avoidance, but kindness is movement. It says, yes, you tripped. Now, let's get back up. It's a gentle hand on your back guiding you forward. For the next 21 days, become that encouraging voice you wish you had in your hardest moments. Speak to yourself as you would to a beloved friend or a child learning something new. Be firm but fair. Be honest but gentle. Remind yourself that perfection isn't the goal. Progress is. You are not weak for choosing kindness. You're strategic. You're building resilience in a way that lasts. You're creating a mindset that can weather storms because it doesn't fracture under self-imposed cruelty. In fact, the ability to be kind to yourself when it's hardest is one of the strongest things you can ever do. So, the next time you fall, smile a little. Whisper to yourself, it's okay. Let's try again. I'm getting better. Because you are. And the world is waiting for the best version of you, the one who knows how to rise. When we wake up each morning, we are gifted with a blank canvas. The words we choose to paint on that canvas will determine the tone of our day, the energy we bring into our work, our relationships, and most importantly, the relationship we have with ourselves. Most people don't realize that their words are not just sounds or symbols, they are the very building blocks of their beliefs. Words create stories, and stories shape identity. When you tell yourself, I'm not good at public speaking, it may sound innocent, even factual, but every time you say it, you're etching it deeper into your identity. You're not just describing an event or a skill gap, you're defining who you are. And the brain, ever loyal, believes you. It will start filtering every experience through that lens. Every shaky moment on stage, every forgotten line becomes proof that you are indeed not a good speaker. You close the door before you even had a chance to peek inside. But what if you spoke differently? What if instead of labeling yourself with a limitation, you embraced a journey of growth? Imagine saying, I'm learning to become a better speaker. It's such a simple shift in language, yet it carries an ocean of possibility. Suddenly, every opportunity isn't a test you're destined to fail, but a step in your progress. The brain, always listening, starts searching for ways to help you improve. It pays attention to good speakers. It notices when you're calm and collected. It builds a new narrative. You are someone who grows, who learns, who gets better with each try. Over the next 21 days, I want you to become hyper-aware of the words you speak to yourself. Because every time you say, I can't, you're teaching your brain to stop looking for solutions. You're erecting a wall where a door could have been. But if you catch that I can't in the moment and flip it to I'm figuring this out, everything changes. You give your brain a problem to solve instead of an excuse to give up. This isn't about blind positivity. It's about realistic optimism. The kind of mindset that acknowledges you might not know how to do something yet, but believes you are capable of learning. Think of a child learning to walk. They don't fall down and say, I guess walking's not for me. They get up over and over because no one told them they couldn't. Somewhere along the way, as adults, we start writing scripts that limit us. We stop trying new things because we fear failing, or worse, being labeled a failure. But failure is never final unless you let it be. Think of a sculptor looking at a block of marble. If he says this is just a block of stone, it will never be art. He will never pick up his chisel. But if he says, there's a masterpiece in here, I just need to reveal it, his entire posture changes. The chisel becomes an extension of his belief, and each strike brings him closer to the vision in his mind. That's how your words work on your potential. They are the chisels that either carve out possibilities or hammer down limitations. When you say, I'm terrible at this, you're giving yourself permission to stay terrible. But when you choose to say, I'm improving every time I try, you are giving yourself permission to grow, to evolve, to eventually excel. This doesn't mean the journey will be easy. Growth is messy. Progress isn't a straight line. There will be days you feel like you're moving backwards. But the words you choose in those moments are critical. Will you say, I'm failing? Or will you say, I'm learning through this challenge? One statement makes you a victim. The other makes you a student. The first drains you of power. The second hands it right back to you. Our brains are goal-seeking machines. They respond to instructions whether we give them intentionally or not. If you keep feeding your brain phrases like, I'll never be able to do this, your subconscious will obediently stop trying. But when you feed it with, I'm working towards this, it begins to scan your environment for ways to make it happen. It notices opportunities, picks up on details, and starts connecting dots you didn't even know existed. It's like owning a GPS system. If you keep inputting destinations like nowhere or Stuckville, don't be surprised when you don't move forward. But if you type in Better Speaker Avenue or Confidence Street, your brain will map out the route. You might hit traffic or take a wrong turn, but at least you're moving, guided by the destination you've chosen. Even in science, the power of words is undeniable. In studies on self-affirmation, individuals who spoke positively about their ability to handle stress or challenges showed better performance and lower anxiety levels. Why? Because their words were literally reshaping how their brain processed pressure. The brain doesn't distinguish between a command given by a drill sergeant and a quiet belief whispered to yourself. It listens, regardless. Consider athletes. When they stand at the starting line, you never hear them mutter, I hope I don't mess this up. No, they speak possibilities into existence. They say, I've trained for this. I'm ready. I'm going to give it my best. Those words don't guarantee victory, but they prime the brain and body to perform at their peak. The same principle applies to you. Whether you're preparing for a presentation, learning a new skill, or just navigating the challenges of daily life, the words you choose become the fuel or the brakes on your potential. Over these 21 days, make it a game. Every time you catch yourself speaking a limitation, pause, flip it. Turn I'm bad at remembering names into I'm working on improving my memory. Replace I always procrastinate with I'm learning to manage my time better. This isn't just semantics. This is reprogramming. It's neuroscience in action. The truth is, most people never reach their full potential. Not because they lack the talent, but because they keep telling themselves stories that box them in. They create ceilings that don't actually exist. But you have the power to tear down those ceilings with a single shift in language. Speak in possibilities, not just for yourself, but for others too. When you hear a colleague say, I can't do this, gently remind them, you're still figuring it out. When a friend says, I'm not cut out for this, remind them, you're in the process of growing into it. Words, after all, are contagious. When you speak possibility, you invite others to do the same. Over these next 21 days, this will become your most important habit knot, the perfect morning routine, not a strict workout schedule, but the discipline of choosing words that build, not break. You'll notice it changes how you feel, it will change how others respond to you, and more importantly, it will change what you believe about yourself. Because the truth is, the story you tell yourself day in and day out is the story you will eventually live. Make sure it's a story filled with doors, not walls. Possibilities, not limitations. We live in a world obsessed with milestones. We are conditioned to believe that only grand achievements, graduations, promotions, weight loss goals, business launches are worthy of celebration. We post about them, we throw parties, we buy cakes. But life doesn't transform in a single event. It unfolds in the small, quiet victories that often go unnoticed. The real change, the kind that sticks, happens inch by inch, not mile by mile. And if we don't learn to celebrate those tiny wins, we risk never reaching the big ones. Think about someone trying to lose weight. If they tell themselves they'll only be proud once they lose 50 pounds, they're sentencing themselves to a long stretch of disappointment. Every day becomes a reminder of how far they still have to go, rather than how far they've already come. That's a heavy emotional burden to carry. But if that same person chooses to celebrate every healthy meal, every day they lace up their sneakers for a walk, every small better choice they make, suddenly the journey feels alive. Suddenly, they are no longer chasing a distant finish line, they are building momentum in real time. We often underestimate the psychological power of acknowledgement. It's not about arrogance or boasting, it's about reinforcing the behaviors that move us closer to the life we want. Each time you give yourself credit for a positive action, you are telling your brain, this matters. Keep doing it. This is how habits are born. Not through discipline alone, but through emotional rewards that create a feedback loop of motivation. For the next 21 days, make it a point to celebrate small wins loudly and often. Did you get out of bed 5 minutes earlier today? That's worth a fist pump. Did you choose water instead of soda at lunch? That's a victory. Did you catch yourself about to criticize your reflection in the mirror but instead offered a kind thought? That is a profound shift. These moments may seem trivial, but they are the foundation of transformation. When we dismiss small wins as insignificant, we are essentially telling ourselves that our efforts are meaningless until we reach some arbitrary point of success. But success isn't a destination. It's a series of choices compounded over time. Every time you recognize a small win, you are laying another brick in the road to your bigger goal. You are turning effort into an emotional experience, and that's where momentum is born. Let's go deeper. Think of a child learning to walk. We don't wait until they've mastered walking to cheer them on. We celebrate every wobbly step, every fall, followed by the courage to get back up. We clap, we smile, we encourage. Why? Because we intuitively know that these small moments of progress are monumental in their development. And yet, as adults, we rob ourselves of this joy. We become so focused on the end result that we ignore the incremental growth happening every day. Celebrating small wins isn't just a motivational tactic. It's a survival strategy. Life is hard. Goals take time. If you rely solely on the big achievements to fuel your self-worth, you will spend most of your life feeling inadequate. But when you train yourself to find pride in the process, you create a sustainable source of motivation that doesn't depend on external validation. Consider this. Progress isn't always visible in the moment. Some days, the scale won't move. Some weeks, your business metrics will stagnate. But if you celebrate the fact that you stayed consistent, that you showed up, that you kept your integrity intact, those are wins that compound over time. The world may not clap for you, but you must clap for yourself. You must become your own loudest cheerleader. This is not about delusion or sugarcoating reality. It's about rewiring your relationship with effort. Effort is noble. Effort deserves recognition because the effort you make today, even if it feels small, is an investment in a future version of yourself who will thank you for never giving up. Think about the science of habits. Neuroscience tells us that behaviors repeated with positive reinforcement become automatic. So every time you pause to say, I did well today, you are strengthening the neural pathways that make those behaviors easier tomorrow. Motivation isn't something you wait for, it's something you create step by step, win by win. And here's the beautiful part. Celebrating small wins doesn't just uplift you, it inspires those around you. When people see you finding joy in the journey, they are reminded that they can too. It creates a ripple effect of positivity and possibility. You become a living example that progress is worth celebrating no matter the size. So for these 21 days, make it a ritual. At the end of each day, take a moment to reflect on what you did well. Write it down, say it out loud, share it with someone who supports you. Did you manage your time better? Did you choose patience over frustration? Did you learn something new, no matter how small? These are your victories. Own them, amplify them. Remember, the big moments, the ones we think will change our lives, are often the culmination of countless small wins stacked together. The book gets published because of the days you wrote a single page. The marathon gets completed because of the mornings you jogged a single mile. The business succeeds because of the tiny, consistent actions you took when no one was watching. You don't need permission to celebrate. You don't need a crowd. You just need the awareness to notice progress and the courage to honor it. Because when you associate effort with pride, you build a mindset that can't be broken by setbacks. You build resilience, you build joy in the process, and that's the kind of success that lasts. Every journey worth taking is long and winding. There will be days when the finish line feels impossibly far. On those days, the only thing that will keep you going is your ability to look back and see how far you've come. Every small win is a breadcrumb on the trail. Collect them, cherish them. Because in the end, it's not the destination that defines you, it's the person you became with every small step you celebrated along the way. Imagine waking up tomorrow and everything you once took for granted is gone. The alarm clock doesn't ring because there's no job to wake up for. Your legs refuse to carry you out of bed because your health has betrayed you. The roof over your head has disappeared and the familiar walls of your home are nothing but a memory. Suddenly, all those things you once grumbled about become the very things you long for. Yet, today, while you have them, you barely notice. We are conditioned to say, I have to go to work, I have to cook dinner, I have to take the kids to school. But in those words lies a subtle burden. It sounds obligatory. It feels like a chore. Yet, with the smallest change, a tiny tweak in our language, we can flip that burden into a privilege. I get to go to work, I get to cook dinner, I get to take the kids to school. Those words carry gratitude. They remind us that these tasks, these routines, are gifts disguised as responsibilities. It's not about being blindly optimistic. Life is hard. There are days when you are exhausted, frustrated, overwhelmed. Gratitude doesn't mean ignoring your struggles. It means choosing to see beyond them. It's acknowledging that even on the hardest days, there's something to be thankful for. You're not required to ignore your emotions. You're invited to widen your perspective. Imagine a young mother who wakes up at 5 a.m. to prepare breakfast for her children before heading to her shift at the hospital. She's tired. The weight of her responsibilities is heavy. But she looks at her sleeping kids and whispers, I get to do this for you. The food she prepares isn't just sustenance, it's an act of love. The job she's heading to isn't just a paycheck, it's a chance to heal, to serve, to provide. Her exhaustion is real, but her gratitude transforms it into purpose. Or think of an elderly man who goes for a morning walk every day, even though his knees ache with every step. He doesn't lament, I have to exercise. Instead, he smiles, I get to move. He remembers friends who can no longer walk, who are confined to wheelchairs or hospital beds. Every step he takes is a celebration of mobility, a silent thank you to life. When we speak in the language of gratitude, our reality shifts. Mundane tasks become moments of mindfulness. Obligations turn into opportunities. I have to do the dishes becomes I get to have a home with running water, with meals to clean up after. I have to attend a meeting becomes I get to collaborate, to have a voice, to be part of a team. For 21 days, if you practice replacing I have to with I get to, you'll start to see the profound impact it has not just on your mood, but on how you experience life. Gratitude isn't an event, it's a daily choice. It's a discipline. And like any muscle, it grows stronger with practice. When you begin to reframe your language, something interesting happens. The world doesn't change, but the lens through which you see it becomes clearer. It's not about pretending life is perfect. It's about acknowledging that within the imperfection lies immense privilege. We often look for grand moments to feel grateful: birthdays, promotions, celebrations. But true gratitude lives in the small, unnoticed corners of our day. It's in the warm cup of coffee you hold on a cold morning. It's in the friend who texts you just to check in. It's in the ability to read, to learn, to grow. There are people who would give anything to do the things you complain about. There's someone in a hospital bed wishing they could stand in line at the grocery store. There's someone unemployed who dreams of dreading Mondays. There's a parent who lost a child who would give anything to hear, Mom, I need a ride. Perspective doesn't minimize your struggles, but it keeps you grounded in reality. We become what we repeatedly say to ourselves. Words are not just sounds, they are seeds. When you say, I have to, you plant seeds of resentment. When you say, I get to, you plant seeds of gratitude. Over time, those seeds grow into the trees that shape the landscape of your life. Gratitude is not passive. It's active. It's not something you wait to feel. It's something you choose to speak, to practice, to embody. And the beauty of it is, the more you choose it, the more it becomes your natural state. You don't wait for a perfect life to feel grateful. Gratitude is the very thing that makes life feel fuller, richer, more meaningful. There is a story of a soldier who lost both legs in battle. When asked how he copes with such a loss, he smiled and said, I get to live. Many of my friends didn't come home. His gratitude wasn't about ignoring his pain. It was about choosing to focus on what remained instead of what was lost. That's the power of I get to. It shifts your focus from scarcity to abundance, from frustration to fulfillment. Every morning when you wake up, you have a choice. You can drag yourself out of bed, grumbling about all the things you have to do, or you can rise with a sense of purpose, knowing that you get to do them. That simple choice shapes the energy you carry into your day. It affects how you treat others. It impacts how you tackle challenges. It's easy to feel grateful when life is smooth, but true character is built when you choose gratitude in the midst of chaos. When you're stuck in traffic, instead of fuming, you can think, I get to have a car. I get to live in a city bustling with life. When deadlines pile up, instead of panicking, you can say, I get to have responsibilities because people trust me. It's a shift so small, yet so profound. Gratitude isn't a momentary feeling, it's a language. It's the way you narrate your life story. And like any language, it requires practice. For 21 days, make this a conscious exercise. Catch yourself when you say, I have to, and correct it to, I get to. Speak it aloud, write it down, let your ears hear the words of privilege and possibility. When gratitude becomes your language, it not only changes how you experience life, it changes how life responds to you. People are drawn to those who live in gratitude because they radiate a rare kind of joy. They aren't consumed by complaints, they see beauty where others see burdens. And in doing so, they inspire others to do the same. You don't have to wait for a near-death experience to appreciate life. You don't need a crisis to open your eyes. You have the power right now to live in a state of gratitude. It starts with a simple shift in words. I get to. Those 3 words can transform the way you work, the way you love, the way you live. So tomorrow, when the alarm clock rings, don't say, I have to get up. Smile and say, I get to, because you do. And that's a gift worth celebrating. Imagine standing at a crossroads. One path is familiar, the same doubts, the same self-talk that has held you back time and time again. The other path is unfamiliar, yet it's the road your future self has already walked. That future version of you, the one who has overcome the very challenge you're facing right now, was not some far-off, unreachable ideal. That person is you. 5 years from now, stronger, wiser, successful. Every scar has turned into a badge of honor, every stumble into a lesson. But here's the thing, that future version of you is watching you right now, watching how you talk to yourself in these defining moments. And the question is, are you going to talk to yourself the way they would? Because let me assure you, they wouldn't speak words of defeat. They wouldn't say, you're not cut out for this. They wouldn't whisper, you're too late, or you're not ready. They'd smile with the calm confidence of someone who's been through the fire and come out the other side, and they'd tell you, keep going. I'm living proof that it's possible. Don't you dare stop now. Every time you stand in front of a mirror, every time you catch yourself spiraling into self-doubt, I want you to pause. Close your eyes. Picture that future you, not vaguely but vividly. What are you wearing? Where are you? What kind of life are you living? How do you carry yourself? Hear their voice, your voice, 5 years from now. that version isn't judging you. They're cheering you on. They're grateful you didn't give up. For the next 21 days, I challenge you to speak to yourself as if you are already that future self. Not as a maybe or a what if, but as a certainty. When you feel like quitting, remind yourself, I already made it through this. When fear starts whispering that you're not ready, respond with, I've handled tougher. This is nothing. It's not about faking it, it's about practicing it. Neuroscience tells us that the brain doesn't fully distinguish between real experiences and vividly imagined ones. When you rehearse success, when you speak as though you've already triumphed, your brain starts wiring for that reality. You start believing it, you start acting on it. But this isn't just positive affirmations slapped on a sticky note. This is a mental reprogramming exercise. It's the difference between saying, I hope, and declaring, I am, because words shape identity. And identity shapes actions. You don't rise to the level of your dreams, you fall to the level of your habits. And one of the most important habits you can cultivate is how you talk to yourself. Picture an athlete preparing for the Olympics. Do you think they step into the arena wondering if they're good enough? No. They visualize that moment 1,000 times. They've spoken to themselves not as they are, but as the champion they intend to become. They train their mind to believe it long before the world sees it. You have that same power. You don't need a medal to start thinking like a winner. You just need a decision to speak to yourself like the person who already crossed the finish line. This exercise becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. When you repeatedly hear your own voice giving you advice from the future, you start making choices aligned with that version. You'll find yourself being more patient in moments of frustration, more disciplined when temptation arises, and more courageous when opportunities knock. Because in your mind, you're not chasing success, you're stepping into it. Think back to a time in your life when you overcame something you once thought was impossible. Maybe it was passing an exam, landing a job, or getting through a painful breakup. At the time, it felt like the hardest thing in the world. But you made it. Now, looking back, you probably wonder why you doubted yourself so much. That's the perspective of the future you. They see your current struggle, but they also see beyond it. They know how the story unfolds. They know it ends with you standing taller, wiser, and stronger. Every challenge you face right now is simply a chapter in that story. And you get to decide how you narrate it. Are you going to tell yourself, this is too hard, I'm not good enough? Or will you choose to say, this is the part where I learn, this is the part where I grow. I already know how this ends, I win. Over the next 21 days, I want you to have conversations with your future self. Not once, not twice, but daily. In the quiet moments, in the noisy chaos, when you're brushing your teeth, when you're driving, when you're walking into a meeting tune, into that voice. Let it become louder than your doubts. Let it become your compass. There will be days when you don't feel like it. Days when the gap between where you are and where you want to be feels too wide. But remember this, your future self didn't get there by accident. They got there because in moments like these, you made a choice to keep going, to believe, to speak with conviction, even when circumstances suggested otherwise. This isn't about arrogance, it's about alignment. Aligning your self-talk with the person you are becoming. Because your brain is listening, every word you say to yourself plants a seed. Doubt plants hesitation. Confidence plants action. Fear plants avoidance. Belief plants persistence. What garden do you want to grow? The most successful people in the world aren't those who never doubt themselves. They're the ones who have trained themselves to respond to doubt with courage. And that courage is cultivated in the small, invisible choices we make daily, like the words we choose to speak to ourselves. If you consistently talk to yourself as though you are already successful, already strong, already capable, you will begin to embody that identity. And once your identity shifts, your actions follow. It becomes easier to say yes to opportunities, to say no to distractions, to wake up early, to push through discomfort, to show up with intention. Imagine waking up 21 days from now with a mind that no longer sabotages you but supports you. A voice that no longer doubts but declares. The journey between who you are and who you want to be is bridged by the conversations you have with yourself. So, the next time you feel like giving up, ask yourself, how would my future self talk to me right now? What would they say? How would they encourage me to take one more step? And then listen. because the answer is already within you. You just have to give it a voice. Talk to yourself as your future self would for 21 days and watch how your present self begins to rise. We often pride ourselves on being there for others. We check in on our friends when they seem distant, when their tone in a text feels off, or when we sense they're not quite themselves. We offer a listening ear, a kind word, or sometimes just our silent presence. We tell them, "You're not alone," and we mean it. Yet when the tables turn and it's us feeling off, we rarely extend that same grace to ourselves. We push through, suppress, distract, and tell ourselves, "I'll deal with it later." But later never really comes, does it? The truth is, the relationship we nurture with ourselves dictates how we show up in every other relationship. If we're not in sync with our own needs, emotions, and struggles, how can we authentically connect with others? How can we expect to pour from an empty cup? It's not just about self-care Sundays or the occasional retreat. It's about cultivating a daily ritual of self-connection, a simple yet profound act of checking in with ourselves. Not as a task to complete, but as a relationship to deepen. For the next 21 days, I challenge you to engage in a conversation with yourself every evening. Not a fleeting thought, not a mental checkbox, but an intentional pause to ask 3 simple yet transformative questions. First, ask yourself, what did I do well today? We're conditioned to chase after the next goal, to critique what's missing, what's lacking. Rarely do we pause to honor the small wins, the email you finally sent, the tough conversation you navigated, or even just the fact that you got out of bed on a tough day. These moments matter. Acknowledging them isn't vanity, it's validation. It's telling yourself, I see you. I'm proud of you. When you notice what you're doing well, you build a foundation of self-trust. You create a narrative that isn't defined by shortcomings, but by growth. Next, gently ask yourself, where did I struggle today? And how can I support myself tomorrow? This isn't an invitation to beat yourself up. It's an invitation to show up for yourself with compassion. Maybe you lost your temper in traffic. Maybe you procrastinated, or maybe you felt anxious for no apparent reason. That's okay. The point isn't to be perfect. The point is to be aware. And more importantly, to be kind. When we identify our struggles without judgment, we create space for solutions. Maybe tomorrow you'll give yourself an extra 5 minutes of breathing before a stressful meeting. Maybe you'll set a boundary you've been avoiding. The goal is progress, not perfection. Finally, ask yourself, what's one thing I'm proud of today? This might feel redundant, but it's not. This is where you intentionally anchor your day in pride, not in arrogance, but in ownership. It could be as monumental as closing a business deal or as simple as choosing water over soda. Pride is a powerful emotion. When you feel proud, you reinforce a sense of capability. You remind yourself that you're not just drifting through life, you're actively participating in it. According to a 2018 Harvard study, people who engage in daily self-reflection experience a 27% increase in emotional well-being. Think about that. That's not a vague feel-good statistic. That's a tangible shift in how you experience life. Emotional well-being isn't just about feeling happy. It's about resilience, clarity, and inner peace. It's about navigating life's inevitable storms with a steadier hand because you've anchored yourself internally. But beyond the numbers and science, here's what really matters. When you build a habit of checking in with yourself, you're no longer outsourcing your self-worth. You're no longer dependent on likes, compliments, or external validation to feel seen. You become your own witness. You become your own cheerleader. You become your own sanctuary. And here's the magician. It doesn't take hours. This ritual can be done in 5 minutes. 5 intentional minutes where you choose to turn inward instead of scrolling, binge watching, or numbing. 5 minutes where you choose presence over distraction. It's not about adding another task to your to-do list. It's about subtracting the noise so you can hear yourself again. You see, we live in a world that glorifies the hustle, the grind, the constant doing. But we forget that in the midst of doing, there is a being that needs nurturing. You wouldn't let a friendship wither away due to neglect. So why allow that to happen with yourself? Every time you pause and ask, how did I do today? You're extending a hand to yourself saying, I care. Every time you ask, where did I struggle? You're offering empathy. And every time you ask, what am I proud of? You're planting seeds of self-respect. This isn't about being soft. It's about being strong in a way that lasts. Strength isn't just about pushing through. It's about knowing when to pause, when to recalibrate, and when to rest. This practice of daily self-check-ins is like tuning an instrument. The more you tune it, the more beautiful the music. Left unchecked, even the finest instruments fall out of harmony. So do we. And let's be honest, life will continue to throw curveballs. Challenges won't disappear. Stress won't magically evaporate. But your relationship with yourself, that can become unshakable. That can become your anchor. Imagine navigating a chaotic day, but instead of spiraling, you have a solid inner dialogue that reminds you, you've handled worse. You've got this. That's the power of daily check-ins. They build inner resilience day by day, brick by brick. Over time, this ritual will shift your identity. You'll no longer see yourself as someone who's constantly behind, constantly lacking, constantly fixing. You'll start seeing yourself as someone who is aware, intentional, and growing. You'll move from self-criticism to self-coaching, from judgment to curiosity, from neglect to deep connection. And here's a beautiful truth: the better you get at being your own best friend, the better you become for others. You'll listen more deeply, empathize more genuinely, and lead with authenticity. Because you're not operating from a place of lack, you're operating from a place of fullness. You won't need to seek approval because you've already given it to yourself. So tonight, when the world gets quiet, when the noise fades and you're left alone with your thoughts, pause. Ask yourself those 3 questions. No distractions, no rush. Just you and yourself having an honest, kind conversation. It might feel awkward at first, it might even feel forced, but give it time. Trust the process. Because every great relationship starts with a simple conversation. And the most important relationship you'll ever have, the one with yourself, deserves nothing less. Now, here's the truth. You don't need 21 days to fix yourself. You're not broken. But you do need 21 days to change the way you treat yourself. Because when you talk to yourself differently, you show up in the world differently. If you can commit to these 6 principles for just 3 weeks, you'll find that the person you're becoming was always there waiting for your voice to catch up.